I got that. Okay.
Uh, it's for you. You
Okay.
can start. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
It
handing it over to you, so say what
would
you
be
like.
nice if we could see the other people there a little more. I have just a tiny little picture, so if it was possible to connect them a little more than you, that I don't talk to you, I talk to them.
Is that better? Can you see them better?
No, no, that was just okay. I can, of course, but it's easier to have give and take if you see them properly. And
Yeah. So there's a
yes, there it is. Good, thank you.
okay.
We needed to speak so it'll pop up for him on us. So that's
Yeah,
what
yeah. Okay, we can start. First of all, I will say I'm very grateful that you would come here to Ireland and help us here with witnessing. And I hope it can be a really good experience for you and that you can learn something. Because even if coming to a new country um, gives you a lot of challenges and problems, it's also the most valuable time you can have in your spiritual life in the church. I've been lucky enough to, as Eli said, be pioneering my whole life. And most of the time, I've started from completely scratch, from nothing. And because of that, I had to face a lot of difficulties and difficult situations, but always I have learned so many times that when you are faced with difficulties, also God is closest. And one of the things you will also learn in pioneering is the reality of spirit world. So if you learn to cooperate with spirit world, you can get so much help. Miracles happen. Please trust that, because I can tell you about many situations where I couldn't believe what happened, but just because I could make a foundation, then great things happened, and I was quite amazed. I will start also by giving you a little idea about my background. I come from North Norway, far to the north of the Arctic Circle, and I had a very good family, especially grandparents that really took care of me and loved me very much. I was the first grandchild, and they taught me to pray. In the beginning, it was just a little song, thanking God for the day and for the protection. And then later on, I developed more and more learning to pray. And since I was very interested in nature, I learned also to just communicate with God out in nature. When I saw something beautiful, I said, "Thank you, Heavenly Father. That's a really beautiful thing." And it really lifted my spirit when I was out in nature. And because of that, later on, I studied biology and chemistry at the university. But there was one thing that was a little special with my childhood. We were living in a very simple house outside our village. And my parents had one complaint about me, and that was I could not sleep alone. If they went out of the house, I had trouble. And the trouble was I could hear people around me that I couldn't see. You understand me? Yeah. If I were left alone and I woke up, I could hear people in the apartment walking around, and sometimes they would come into my bedroom. And I was scared out of my wits. So I jumped out the window and ran down to my grandmother. So when I was very young, I was quite open spiritually. And because of that, I had experiences with spirit world. And when you are so young, you don't understand what is happening. You just get scared. But actually, that has followed me my whole life. And because of that, I have many deep experiences with spirit world, something that sometimes you can say are miracles. So please trust that when you make a foundation and you have the right heart, you can receive so much help from the spirit world. But please, take that seriously. I'm also sure that you are coming from, I understand, mixed marriages between Korean and Japanese, right? Your parents are from a different nation. And that means that there must be also a lot of criticism and difficulties in your background. I had the same thing because I came from a very Christian background. And when I joined the church, so much criticism. And my closest friends and relatives really tried to convince my parents that I had made a big mistake. But actually, because I had Spirit World behind me and many good ancestors, even though I did not want to join the church, I was kicked into the church. You know, when I was at university, I'd started my master's study, and I got witnessed to, and I went to lectures. And because, you know, principle is different from Christianity that I was raised in, and I quarreled and I quarreled and I quarreled. Nobody thought I would ever join the church until we came to the time when we were talking about the return of Christ. I had pledged I will not go back, but I could not sit still in my apartment. And I was forced to go back to the center to listen to the lecture. And we started to quarrel again until I heard suddenly a voice in my mind, so strong, said, "Shut up and listen." And I was quite shocked, you know. And I went quiet and I started to think. And that was the beginning of my spiritual life in the church. And actually, Spirit World also told me, you are not in charge of your life anymore, you know. So that was a very hard message to take. But I took that very seriously. So I cut my studies. I moved out of my apartment and I moved up to the headquarters and slept in a sleeping bag on the floor. So it was a very big change for me. And my parents and others were shocked, but my mother completely trusted me. So this had followed me. So very soon I understood that good ancestry is helping. And one occasion, I will tell you also some little miraculous thing that happened also because of the negativity. I hope you can understand me. Is it okay? Okay. You see, I had especially an aunt and an uncle that were very Christian, and they criticized my parents for letting me join the Unification Church. But my mother said I had never done any bad things or wrong things, so she wanted to trust me. So one day I have another aunt, and this aunt, she is not very religious, but just a very good person. So she was sitting writing a letter to somebody and just resting, and suddenly her hand started to go by itself, you know, automatic writing. Have you heard about that? Automatic writing, when Spirit World use you and start to give message, and it's not you that is doing that, you know. So without my aunt wanting knowing this, the hand started to write a letter, and the letter was about me, that at that time I was working in Iceland, that I was doing God's will, and she should go and listen and go and testify to my family. And that really shocked everybody, you know. So and the spirit even told who he was and where he was buried and where he came from. So he gave very good explanation of who he was. So this was the beginning of my quite drastic experience of Spirit World. And I will say one thing: if you have any questions when I'm talking, please just interrupt me and ask. It's okay. So, you know, I joined the church in 1972-73. So that's a long time, I guess, before you were born. So in 1974, I was sent to Belvedere for training. And because the church was very little, Belvedere training was absolutely like Champion now, you know. People came there and we got really good lectures and lots of experiences. We had one spiritual lady that would come and tell all the people from the spirit world that came from lectures. So Jesus would come and Moses would come and many different saints and sages would come when the lectures were going on, and she would come running up and explain what happened, you know. And I could feel it, even though I couldn't see. I could feel their presence, you know. And we also experienced Holy Spirit coming down and all kinds of things. And also one of the good things when a little church is that True Parents was very close to us. So when we were having guard duty in East Garden, then we could come up there and be together with True Parents family. And I remember one time, you know, I was set to shine Father's shoes, you know. I was asked if I could shine shoes, you know. So I got Father's shoes and I had to clean them and brush them and really made a good job. And I vacuum cleaned his car and did all kinds of other things. But one thing, when True Father was so close to us, also there was many very direct experiences that wasn't so easy to take, you know, because Father, even though he was a great father and I miss him so much, still you could get many experiences which was difficult sometimes to take. For instance, when I was sent out to Iceland in 1975, then that was the time when Father sent 3 missionaries to many different countries. But I went to Iceland alone, and 1 missionary had been there before, but no results. So since we had a good relationship, we started to make all kinds of conditions. I understood at once when I came there, if I shall break through, I have to get Spirit World to work with me. So I started with all kinds of conditions, fasting and cold showers and you name it. And we did it together because the first missionary was there for a little time with me. And I was out in the street from morning until the shops closed in the evening. So, and asking people and stopping people, and of course, language problems because they don't speak English.
The audio has stopped, Halvard.
Sorry?
Oh, it's back. The audio.
I see trouble in the connection here.
You said they didn't speak English. That was the last thing we heard.
Yeah, but I see the connection is not so good here. Okay, so I had to learn to communicate in Icelandic, which is very complicated, but also they understood English, most of the young people. So I witnessed and I had no results, and they made more conditions. And then suddenly I prayed with the other missionaries every morning and every evening. And one evening, after I had been out witnessing, then we were praying together, and suddenly I could feel Spirit World coming very strongly. And the other missionaries said when they came out, "What happened?" And I said, somebody in Spirit World told me that if I continue to witness like I have done now, tomorrow you will find a person that can join the church. So I told her, no, this is what I heard, you know. So the next day I went out and I started very early, and I talked and I stopped people, and the whole day up and down the streets, around and around. And in Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland, at 6 o'clock, all the shops close and people go home, and the town is empty. So the whole day I was witnessing and nothing happened. So I was quite disappointed. So I started to go home. But then in front of me in the street, on the way back to the center, I saw a young man. So I thought, okay, last person. So I ran up to him and stopped him. And I started to talk to him. And he turned around and he was laughing. And he said, you know, I knew you were going to talk to me, he said, because I saw you at lunchtime in front of the bank. You were speaking to a person, and Spirit World told me this person has something very important to tell you. So I was completely shocked. And this person became the first member in Iceland. And he translated Father's Madison Square Garden speech and that was the beginning, you know. So please, you know, one biggest lesson I learned in spirit in Iceland was, please make conditions. Please involve spirit world. And when we got visitors, I would pray really strongly before they come. And if they didn't show up, I would call them and say, you know, you forgot the appointments. Please come, you know. And I would try several times. And many times they would come. And even though the other missionary had been there for over a year, pretty soon the first person joined in the church because we started to work like this. And then I was left alone. And we had an apartment. I had no money, no support, no nothing. So I was standing there, what on earth can I do? Then I found a job that I could do in the evening. And then I could witness the whole day, and they saved me. I could pay the rent, but it was so bad that I could buy only half a loaf of bread, and I could buy one rose for the prayer room. You know, that was all the money I had, you know. And when the first missionary came, then he would go out in the morning and he will go to the bakeries, you know, the baking shops, and ask for bread for the pigs, you know. You understand? You know, he asked for get all bread to give to the pigs, you know. So he will come back with cakes and bread and so on, and then we will put it in the oven and warm it up, and then we could eat it. So bad it was in the beginning, you know? But we had great experiences, and right after I had joined in Iceland, then we got a message from Father about the Yoyido rally. In Yoyido, Father wanted all the nations represented. And we had no money, and absolutely no way to send a missionary. But the missionary and me was actually a sister. We had a very good spirit. We said, we will send somebody to Korea, even if we have to walk, you know. So we did anything we could. We were, you know, praying and making conditions, and then something happened. What happened was that this lady, this other missionary, this sister, she also had a side job cleaning for quite a rich person that had a big factory. And she just mentioned to him that we really would like to go to Korea, but we don't know how to do. And he just offered money. You can borrow, I can lend you the money, you know. So she went to Korea and participated in Yoyido rally and came back. And then I was sitting there with the problem of paying back and had no money. I had just enough to exist, but no money to pay back. And then Father came to England. and they called all the national leaders. I was also national leader. Called me to England. And Father gave us a good speech, and we were sitting there, all the national leaders. And then Father said, anybody having money problems? If I had known now, I would have said nothing, but I raised my hand. And Father said, what's the problem? Why do you have money problems? Quite strong, you know. Father sometimes could be really strong, you know. And I said, well, you know, we were asked to send a missionary to Korea, and we had no money, so we had to borrow, you know. Oh, so Father. Okay. And then he gave me, you know, quite a strong speech. And then he took out his wallet, and I'm going, here's money. So Father gave me money at once. And the strange thing was, when I came back to Iceland and I was alone, I went to this person that had offered to lend us money. And I said, this is the money we borrowed. And he didn't even remember that he had given the other missionary money, you know. So that was definitely spirit world, you know. And I tell you, in Iceland, the spirit world is so close that we had so many experiences with the spirit world, and people that came with testimonies that they saw their ancestry and they saw their friends, and anything happened around, you know. But it was also a difficult situation because many people had spiritual trouble, you know. So it was both good and bad. So I tell you, if you should really make an effort to have results in Ireland, please really use your prayer, you know, because if you pray from really a deep heart and really want to do it, then spirit world will be there. And I found out it's not a matter of a lot of words. You don't have to pray a lot of words, but if your heart is there, spirit world responds to that, you know. So don't be afraid. If you go out and you get trouble in Dublin when you try to witness, you know, don't get discouraged, because even if people in the beginning are negative, then there always will come somebody that will give you an inspiration. And sometimes if you meet a good person, don't give up on that person. Recontact many times and just push, and in the end they will come, you know. So the best advice I can give you for witnessing and for pioneering is don't get discouraged, because when you get to my age, you realize that the troubled time you had, that is when you learn. That is when you come close to God. That is when you experience spirit world. That is when you pile up your heavenly fortune. Because if you have no problems, no trouble, you don't even remember it anymore. But because I have been living in a pioneering situation, then I have so many things I remembered. I had to sit down a couple of years ago and write down all the things that happened, my whole life story. And there were several hundred pages with all kinds of things. You know, you come to Ireland and you come to a different culture, different language. You don't know what is meeting you in the society and all these different things. Father, in 1992, called all the national leaders to Alaska. And then we had a killing a program of speeches and outdoor activity. Father will start 5 o'clock in the morning. He will speak until far beyond breakfast, out the whole day fishing, back, and then speaking until the middle of the night again. A few hours talk, sleep, and then talk afterwards. And then when we had finished everything, Father said, you get 14 days to prepare to go to Russia. You know, we had total shock. You know, we had no preparation, no nothing. And that is not the first time. I had the same experience later on in America, with Father out of nowhere would ask us to go out. He didn't even ask us if we could, but just commanded us to go, and it was really difficult. And when I went to Russia in the end of 1992, I was sent. I was supposed to be a teacher for all the teachers in Russia, but Jack Corley, whom you have met, he was one of the leaders in Russia at that time. He came to me and said, could you go to Rязань instead? It is a town that is 200 kilometers southeast of Moscow. And I said, okay, I'll go. And I knew nothing. I knew no Russian, no nothing, you know. So I got on the train and I went down there. That was in February, and it was really cold. It was minus 20 or more when I came to this station in Rязань. And I had never met the student that called me, you know. And the station was full of people. And I said, how on earth can I find the person that called to headquarters and asked for missionary? And I was standing by the window and I said, there he is. You know, I could see one person in the sea of people at the station, and it was right. You know, that was the person that had called me, and it took me home to his grandmother where I could stay, and there also his uncle became my PR man, and then the whole thing started in Russia. I had so many experiences in Russia. One of the most amazing things was that when I made good conditions, I would sometimes wake up in the morning and I will feel, oh, today will be a great day. I could feel a beautiful atmosphere coming to me, you know. And I remember one day I had such an experience. We walked down the main street and a person came towards us in full uniform, you know, army uniform with all kinds of things on him, looking very impressive. And my PR man, Sergey, that was my PR man, public relation man, he stopped this man because he knew him a little. And out of that, I was invited to give lecture in the police academy to all the all the candidates that were joining, you know, the police force. And there were a whole big hall full of people. So I tell you, you know, please trust spirit world. And if you have no experiences with spirit world, please, you know, ask for help. You come from good ancestry. You come from parents that have gone through many difficulties and made good foundation for you. I had very little, but you have a beautiful foundation. And I'm sure mother also have been educating you, and I'm sure you've been to Champyong and got your workshops there or whatever. Please trust it. Spirit world in Iceland is very mixed. Father, when he came to Iceland, to Ireland, he said in the car into to Dublin, he said, Ireland has a very mixed spirit world. Many saints and sages, but also a lot of people that have trouble. So please, you know, trust the good people, because so many people from Ireland, they went out into Europe and they saved Christianity in the Middle Ages. Because you know there were many monasteries in Ireland, and they sent people down to Europe and saved Europe because Christianity was almost dead in Europe, you know. So they revived the whole Europe again. So please trust all these good saints that are in the other side and make conditions to make connection with them. They will help you, and your good ancestry will be with you as well, you know. So, you know, I could continue and I could talk a lot about these things, but I think you have a feeling of what you can experience. This is the most valuable time in your life. Please don't be discouraged if you meet some difficulty or negativity or people that criticize you. Don't even listen to that. Just trust that if you break through these things, you will find good people, you know. And even if there will be not the best results, still this will be an experience that will help your spiritual life. You know, this will be your heavenly fortune, you know. I don't know. Please, you know, if you have any questions, please ask me. Do you have anything?
Okay. Oh, in Ireland, so how did you witness to for Christians? So did you go the church or community of Christianity? So how did you do it?
Well, you know, Ireland was the first place I came to where there was a community. All the other places in Iceland, in Russia, and in Latvia, there was almost no people when I came there. Ireland already had a foundation. So it was a very different situation to come to Ireland. My wife, she is the a very active person, and she was the top fundraiser and witnesser in Britain. She took charge of the Christian side, and she would go to churches and she would arrange connection with different religious organizations. I was working mainly with UPF, and we had conferences where we could invite people from many different places, and we had really big conferences. And you know, two parents came to Ireland 3 or 4 times. So we have many experiences with, two parents coming to us. But mainly my activity directly was to go out and witness in the street. We used O'Connell Street a lot. We had stands there. And at that time also, two parents asked us to go out and give holy wine and bless people in the street. So we had a big stands in the middle of the main street and also in one of the side streets. And I know we blessed, I think, over 600 couples during that time, So my main witnessing in Ireland and in all the other places is person to person, out in the street, And also we had possibilities to go to schools, and then we could talk to whole classes of young people, and that was really good because many questions. Young people very often have questions, and their minds are not so set as the old people, So we could have many good talks in the schools. So, and also I made friends with all the religious leaders in Dublin, the Muslims and the Hindus and the, you name them, I knew them, And because of that, we had very good cooperation and work together. And then we had people going to the Middle East, to Mepi. I could bring people down there, and we had quite a lot of things happening at that time. But please, don't be afraid to talk to people, even though they sometimes seem to be a little, say, closed. I don't know. Do you have a lot of witnessing experience already, or what?
No.
You don't? Just be brave. Just be brave. Just stop people and don't care if it is trouble to talk in the beginning. You get used to it, And if you pray well, you will feel God's Spirit with you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I wish I could meet you face to face, but I have some physical limitation now. So maybe Eli could take you up here sometimes, and you could come up here to Austin Cabin, maybe for a weekend or whatever, and then we could talk more face to face. Okay? Do you have any other questions? No? There are so many things, I could still share with you, but I'm afraid of giving you too much, so you just frown.
When do you release the book?
Well, it is here in the cupboard,
I'd be interested in reading it anyway.
Yeah, I can give you a file if you want. Yeah. Yeah. There is a lot of things there from all the missions, and in Iceland, for instance, we had so many people coming to us with spiritual experiences. I remember especially one young woman that was very spiritually open and had a lot of trouble because of that, because her mother was a very beautiful girl, but she had many lovers, and when these people came to the mother, she could see the animalistic spiritual bodies of these people, and she had nervous breakdown, and then she ended up in an institution in Reykjavik, and when she came out of there, she came to us, because she knew that we were doing, spiritual work, and she said she had a very special experience. The morning after she had come to the institution, which was a very old house, she was sitting there and she saw this elderly lady coming in through the door, and she was from the spirit world. She could see her clothes and her hairstyle, and she brought with her a very cold atmosphere, So, so she felt very uncomfortable, and she was sitting there. And this lady, she walked across the room and up to the sink, and she tried to take down the mirror, But of course, she couldn't do that, being a spirit. So this girl, she left the room, and she was really wondering, who was this lady? So she started to ask around, and she found a cleaning lady that had been there for a long time. And this lady said, yeah, I think I remember that lady. I think she lived in the room that you have now. And she said, and yeah, it was really sad. She said, because this lady had such a bad end. She took the mirror and broke it and cut her throat and committed suicide with that. So through all these years, this lady, this spirit, had the same thinking and was stuck in this kind of thing. So this is one of the bad experiences in spirit world, in Iceland. But that shows you the reality of both sides, So we are dealing with very serious things. It's not just joy and happiness and support, but there is also attacks. So please be aware of that, Yeah. When you are a pioneer like this, different places, you have many different experiences. In Iceland, so many things happened. I think I've shared some of the essential things. If you just trust spirit world and ask your ancestors to participate, you will have help. You will have support. Yeah, and ask also your brothers and sisters in the center there also to support you with prayer and whatever. Then you will have success. Yeah. Well, I've been talking for 40 minutes, so it's about time to close, I think. Okay,
Thank you, Halvard.
Okay, you're welcome.
Very much appreciated. If you
Well,
want, I can offer a closing prayer, unless you would like to offer a closing prayer.
Please do.
Okay. Please join me in prayer. Saramanishin Yohanar Bumanim. Our beloved and precious Heavenly Parent, we're very grateful that we could have this opportunity to share with our elder brother, our uncle, in my case, father-in-law, Reverend Halvard Iversen, who really could share some of his pioneering experience, his experience of making conditions and working with spirit world, really trusting spirit world, and also sharing his own testimony of how he joined this movement, how he came to understand your real identity as our parent and your desire of the providence through true parents. So as our UPA brothers are going out tomorrow to go witnessing in Ireland for the first time, we pray that they can really have the support, not just of our Irish Family Federation, Heavenly Parents Holy Community brothers and sisters, but really of the Irish saints and sages, from St. Patrick all the way down to the very loyal and diligent monks and nuns throughout Irish history. They really gave their lives for your will, for Christianity. So we pray tomorrow as the missionaries go out, they can really bring the highest spirit with them, really touch on that high spirit world, to really be able to find and reach out to your children who are actually desperately looking. Even if they're not actively looking, there's a part of their hearts that are empty, that need to be filled and can only be filled with the love of the Heavenly Parents. So we pray that we can really make good conditions, strong conditions, and really be able to move spirit world to work with us. Again, very grateful to Halvard for his time, for his experience and sharing it with us. Pray can also help us to understand spirit world more deeply, understand ourselves more deeply, and also understand our true parents and especially true mothers' direction at this time. I report this on behalf of everyone here and in my name, Youngil Eli Lo, a Central Family. Aju. Okay, guys, last chance to ask any questions. But I know it can be difficult, but we had, I think Halvard shared a lot of beautiful experiences. a couple things I hadn't heard before. So thank you, Halvard, for sharing. And yeah, we'll be praying for you guys tomorrow as well. So
Yes, we will. I'll keep you in prayer.
yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna stop the recording there, and we can finish up.